May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. The most popular kind of book that people buy, whether in bookstores or online, is the romantic novel, the romance story. By far, it surpasses all the other different kinds of books. And so there are various kinds of romance novels. You have certain situations in them which you know that the two people are going to get together. For example, there is the enemies to lovers romance novel, where two people can't stand each other but have to work together, and they get on each other's nerves and they yell at each other and end up falling in love. And then there is the star-crossed lovers type of romance novel, in which two people fall in love and their families do not approve of them getting married, or else there's some other obstacle. They might be between two different tribes or different ethnic groups, or one person might be extremely rich and the other not so much. They overcome their odds and they get together, except in the play Romeo and Juliet, where they both die. It's a silly play. Anyway, in the gospel lesson for today, Jesus ends up sitting by a well, and a woman comes and starts to draw out water. If you grew up in a Jewish household or were influenced strongly by Jewish cultures in that time and place, a big old siren would immediately be going on in your head. A klaxon would be sounding. Auga, auga, romance coming, romance coming. Yes, because a well, sitting by a well, was sort of the Old Testament equivalent of a Tinder account. If you wanted to find somebody to get together with, you went and sat by a well. All right? So Abraham sends his servant back to Haran to find a wife for Isaac, because they can't stand the Canaanite wives that Esau, the Canaanite wives that Ishmael has come up with. Anyway, so he sends somebody back to Haran, and he sits by a well, this servant, and Rebekah comes and they meet, and he brings her back to Abraham, and she marries Isaac, and that's how they get together. And then Isaac and Rebekah's son Jacob, he ends up by the side of a well and meets Rachel at the side of a well, who brings him water and gets water for him, and he falls in love with her for the rest of his life. And then Moses meets his wife Zipporah at a well. You see the way it goes. So Jesus is now sitting at a well, and a woman comes and she starts drawing up water, and he says, "Give me something to drink." All right, it's a romance. But the Gospel of John turns the romance on its head. The Gospel of John, it's not a romance between two people, it's a romance between God and us, God and all of humankind and creation. Now, we've already seen some romance in the Gospel of John. Jesus is at a wedding. They run out of wine. It's a disaster. And so Jesus turns the water that they have there into the richest, sweetest, most potent kind of wine. Indeed, Jesus turns our relationships, which are good and happy when they are healthy, and then he turns them into deep, rich, beautiful manifestations of the glory of God. So we've had romance already. Now we have some obstacles to the romance, right? Because the woman says something that's not very romantic at all. She says, "Why are you, a Jew, asking me, a Samaritan, for water to drink?" Jews and Samaritans did not get along. They had very bad history, to the point where if you were in Jerusalem and you wanted to go north to Galilee, usually if you were Jewish, you went around Samaria, which was in between there. You went around the region of Samaria. You didn't want to go to that part of town. But Jesus, it says in the verses before the gospel lesson for today, has to go through Samaria. Why does he have to go through Samaria? Maybe it's because that's what Jesus does. He crosses boundaries. He transcends walls of hatred and resentment and division and mistrust and fear and hurt. He goes to Samaria, sits down at a well. Jesus says to the woman, if you knew the gift of God and who it was that was asking you, then you would ask him for water, and he would give you living water, which also means running water, like in a stream. And the woman takes Jesus literally, which is not uncommon. Lots and lots of people in the Gospel of John take Jesus literally, and they miss the point. Okay? So when you're reading the Bible, we said this last week, be sure to avoid taking it too literally, because you'll miss the point. Also, when you're reading the Bible, we said this also last week, it is better not to take it too figuratively either. Yes, Jesus is risen from the dead. Yes, he is at work in our lives right now. Yes. Don't take it too figuratively, or else you'll miss the point. 2, she takes him literally. She's in very good company. Many people in the Gospel of John do this. She doesn't get it right away. None of us get it right away. We're all growing. We're all learning. None of us understand completely. That's what the Gospel of John says. So she says, you don't have a bucket. How are you going to get water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well? And Jesus is, of course, greater, but that's not the point. That's not the point. So he says, everyone who drinks from this water will get thirsty again. But anyone who drinks from the water that I will give them will never thirst. It will become a well surging up inside of them into eternal life. Okay, Jesus, you could be a little more clear. I'm sorry, but this is the Gospel of John, and everybody's a poet. So the woman still doesn't quite get it. She thinks Jesus is going to give her indoor plumbing. Right? She thinks he's going to give her a faucet in her kitchen. She says, sir, give me this water always so that I don't have to keep on coming to the well and toting water back home. Now, mind you, a water faucet in your kitchen is a wonderful thing. It is a miracle. It is a fabulous gift. Hundreds of millions of people in our world do not have access to clear, good, pure water, and we get it at a touch. Can you imagine what a wonderful thing that is? A water faucet in your kitchen is fine. It's a good thing. But Jesus gives the woman far more. We also come to Jesus asking for many things. Jesus, help my family. Jesus, heal my illness. Jesus, heal my friend. Heal my beloved. Heal my mom or dad. Jesus, will you give us peace? Jesus, will you help us to manage our finances? Jesus, will you tell us what you need us to do? Jesus, all of these things are fine, wonderful, beautiful things. They are miracles. And sometimes we see them. But we don't know what we're asking for. We ask for health. We don't know what we're asking for when we ask for peace. I mean, we have a glimmer of it, we have an idea, but we don't know God's peace. That's deeper than what we are. We don't know God's health. That's beyond what we can conceive. That's okay. We ask. Jesus gives us more than we could possibly imagine. The woman asks. And now Jesus goes to a place in her life that is vulnerable and deep and personal. He says, go get your husband. And she says, I don't have a husband. He says, you're right. You don't have a husband. You've had 5 husbands so far, and the man you're with is not your husband. Okay. So many people have interpreted this part of the passage to indicate that this woman must be a woman of loose virtue. Oh, of lax moral fortitude. Oh, she probably has been sleeping around. Either she has divorced all 5 of her husbands and run after the next, or the husbands divorced her for going after and sleeping around with other people. This is terrible. Terrible, everyone. You must avoid this at all costs. Oh, cover your ears. Let your eyes be covered so that you are not influenced by such a terrible person. Now, if a guy sleeps around, all right, that's not so bad. He's just sowing his wild oats, right? He's just kind of, boys will be boys, right? Okay. It's not, it kind of shows he's really a man, doesn't it? Just a little bit. It's kind of okay for a guy. But for a woman, it's terrible. Terrible. Very dramatic. Very exciting. Not very likely. Not likely. In the first place, the woman probably did not divorce her husbands, because if you were a woman in Jesus' time and place, then you did not have the right to divorce your husband. Your husband could divorce you. You could not divorce him. Unless you were extremely powerful and wealthy like Herodias was. But this woman totes her own water, okay? So she's not. Very unlikely. Now, the guys might have divorced her, although you would think after divorce number 2 or 3, the gentleman would have got a clue. Furthermore, you may notice later in the passage that the woman goes home to her village. And she tells them about Jesus, and they listen to her. They believe her. They trust her enough to believe in Jesus because of what she says. Do you think if she had a reputation for sleeping around, they would listen to her like that in a first century village in a rural part of ancient Palestine? Probably not. So what's going on? Maybe she has a mental or a physical medical condition. Maybe she gets better, somebody marries her, she gets worse, he divorces her, she gets better, somebody marries her, and so on. Or, and I think this is the most likely possibility, she can't have babies. She can't have children. In those days, people thought it was the man's contribution that was exclusively necessary. The woman was just sort of a receptacle, and all these guys are kind of, I can do it. I can have a baby with her. Blah, 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 blah. I can do it. Now, he couldn't do it, but I can. And it doesn't happen because it's medically impossible. So he divorces her. Somebody else gives it a try. He divorces her. Somebody else. And maybe, just maybe, the guy she's with him because he's the only option. Because in her day, if you were a woman, you needed a man to put a roof over your head. Which tone of voice do you think Jesus had when he spoke to her? Do you think he said, aha, I know you've had 5 husbands and the man you're with is not your husband, I've got you? Or is he saying, I know you've had 5 husbands. The man you're with is not your husband. You're telling the truth. Interesting. The text does not seem to care whether she's sleeping around or whether she can't have babies or what. The people in her village, even if she does sleep around, they don't seem to care. They still respect her. The woman doesn't show any shame. She doesn't seem to fear any kind of judgment or condemnation from Jesus. Jesus doesn't show any inclination to judge her, and he does condemn other things elsewhere in the Gospel of John. He even tells a woman who does commit adultery, go and sin no more. It's not like he doesn't think there's a sin out there. And by the way, folks, don't sleep around. It's bad for you. Okay? Just so we're clear. about that. It's not the point. Jesus goes to the point. He says, he treats her in the same way that he treats pretty much everybody else who is of a different religion from himself. Samaritans and Jews were similar, but their religions were significantly different. The Samaritans only accepted the first 5 books of the Bible, where Jesus accepted the first 5 books of the Bible and the Psalms and the prophets and maybe some others. The Samaritans worship in Samaria, the Jews worship in Jerusalem, so there are significant differences. And Jesus is willing to disagree. He disagrees with her. He says, you worship what you don't know, but we worship what we know. He's willing to disagree, but he gets to the point, which is not even the disagreement, which is not even the history, whatever it might be for her, which is not even the nationality. He gets to the point. He says, the time is coming when people will worship neither in Jerusalem nor in Samaria, but will worship God in spirit and in truth, with their honesty, with their depth, with their need, with their hope. And God's hungering desire, yearning for connection and community and love with us, to be together with God's romance with us, will be made real. That's the point. The woman says, I know the Messiah is coming. Jesus said, that's me. And she leaves her jug at the well. She's probably going to have to come back and get it sooner or later, because you do need to get your water, right? But she leaves it at the well because right now, in this moment, plain old water doesn't seem to be that important. And she runs back to her village and she tells everybody, and again, they listen to her. She tells everybody, come and see a man who told me everything that I ever knew. And they come to him. They believe because of what she says. And then they go to him and he stays with them. And then they believe in him. It's about the love of God. It's not about our history. It's about the love of God. It's not about our nationality, whether we are citizens or not. Citizens of what country? United States or Mexico or India or Australia? It doesn't matter. What matters is the love of God. That's what matters. The people trust this woman. Trust her. Who trusts you? Who trusts you? Children? Yeah. Could you maybe give those people a glimpse of the love of God? Show them the point? Because you do, you know. I've seen you do it many times. When you show kindness, or when you show generosity, when you challenge somebody out of care. Could you maybe invite them to come and see Jesus? Easter would be a great time. Invite somebody to Easter. Yeah. We are all a part of a great romance. A great romance that has its challenges. You know, sometimes we're not doing so well in our romance. But you know what? We have a promise. We have a promise that there will be a happy ending. Thanks be to God.